Angela Merkel said recently that Russia is not our enemy. Do you feel it's getting close to being that way?
That's a rather technical dictionary type question. Enemy, by law, means someone who's fighting you physically, especially in interstate relations. It's certainly an opponent. It is certainly a threat. Maybe not formally an enemy, but it is posing issues that demand a serious, concerted, unified, and very clear answer from the West.
What do you think President Putin wants to achieve?
President Putin has been very explicit. He wants to recreate the Soviet Union under a new name and under a different regime, in some ways like Imperial Russia. To accomplish that, he definitely needs Ukraine under his control.
Why is Ukraine so important?
Look, without Ukraine, Russia is just a huge state surrounded by tiny little states, none of which really want to be part of the Eurasian Union. With Ukraine, Russia has a serious partner.
Has President Putin the upper hand in Ukraine?
He has the upper hand militarily, quite clearly, in part because the West is not prepared to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. Not in an aggressive fashion against the Russians, but in a defensive fashion.
The other major challenge that we have in the West is the Islamic State. Did the West also fail to meet this challenge?
No, that's a much more complicated issue. It's not so clear-cut. We're dealing here with a massive political awakening of the Islamic world, part of which is organized in reasonably stable, historically rooted states, and part of which is totally amorphous.
President Obama has been very hesitant when it comes to do something about the Islamic State.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's been hesitant. He's been prudent. He's been pushed by a lot of people who mindlessly recommend an immediate American plunge on the air and on the ground into the conflict. We have been bogged down for a decade. America has every reason to be very prudent and selective in how it responds. It'll have to respond, but part of a larger coalition in which its role is more precisely defined and in some respects rather indirect rather than direct.